1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Big Jim, keep my favorite.
What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big John and G, the two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming.
Another episode of my 5 favorite. And this time, we're talking about my 5 favorite card-based board games. Not card games like poker or pinochle or something. And not a board game that has a few cards in it. A tabletop game that is driven by the cards. Which are my favorite? Then let us know which are your favorite. Alright, I'll see you all down the table, my friends. My number 5 favorite card game, by Reconculus, Crazier 8's Olympus. I have so much fun with the Crazier 8 series in general. Any one of the Crazier 8 games could have been on this list very easily. But I specifically chose Olympus, not only because it is the newest title thus far by them, but it also adds in a new rule. It changes something up, and that's what made that specifically, of all of them, make this list. Now, before I say the obvious, anyone that follows me or has heard me talk about this game or this series of games before knows what I'm going to say. Before I say that, I'm going to talk about how familiar and easy the rules are. That's the first thing that I love about this game. Because it's based, at its core, on the Crazy Eights game, the classic family card game, right? It's very familiar. That makes this one of the easiest gateway games to introduce to anybody that I've ever had the pleasure to play and introduce to somebody. So now, because that was very important, I'll get into exactly what anyone that knows me is expecting me to say now. My God, this art is amazing. Of all the board games in my collection, of all the games I've played over the years, I can tell you easily, hands down, this game contains my favorite art. Game after game, system after system. I love this art so much. It is like museum gallery level art of a medieval style or classical style. It looks like things we've all seen. It does. It has that quality to it, and I will never grow tired of looking at this game or talking about the beauty of its art. Now, talking about how it was, based on Crazy Eights style system of game, what makes this different, what makes this crazier, is the twists in the cards themselves. Each card is going to fall into one of 2 categories and is going to give you an asset or cause an effect in the gameplay. And this drastically changes the entire strategy of a Crazy 8 style game, giving it its name. Crazier, because the strategy is so much crazier. Most of the games I have won had nothing to do with me getting to 0 cards. Me just making certain conditions appear in my playing field due to my asset cards. That's become my style of gaming with it, because I love the twist on this rule system so much for it. Now, speaking of twists, this particular version has a twist in and of itself that the earliers didn't, which is the one of the 2 main reasons why it's on my list. One, I love Greek mythology. This is based on Olympus. But this one also is because, unlike the prior games, all the aces in this game are deities. They are all part of the Greek pantheon. And they are undestroyable cards. Your opponent can play cards that will destroy your assets, but not these assets, because they are gods. Doesn't mean the cards can't be manipulated, but they can't be destroyed, and that is a new factor in the Crazy 8 games, and it actually did change a little bit of my strategy and gameplay in it, and I enjoyed that because of that. Although I like the game the way it is, and I love playing it, and they can very easily make card lists or filler lists, that's it brings a whole new level now with this particular game and the strategy, and it's worth it. And I hope that moving forward, I see more new little tweaks such as this with the future cards coming down the line in whatever new series that Reconculus is going to think for us. Oh yeah, and as you see, this is just a tiny card game, so it's in a tuck box. Talk about easy travel. That's always a good reason to have a game on your list. But overall, all of this together is why this and this particular one in the series has made it on my list. Please go check out Crazier 8's Olympus by Reconculus. My number 4 favorite card game by Fundamental Games, Duel of the Dragons. This was, I believe, the first game by Fundamental Games, and if it's not, I apologize. This is the first one I became aware of, and I backed on Kickstarter, actually. And this is a really great 1 or 2 player game. It works perfectly either way. I will have just as much fun soloing it as I will in a head-to-head against one of the other 20-sided warriors. The system of this I enjoy also and keeps drawing me into playing the games, and that's the system of combat and how the combat works. And you're laying your cards out around your card. All the combat cards are being laid around, and they are forming a specific set of actions in the overall scheme. It's not even written this way in the rules, but in the overall scheme, what it's doing is these attacks, the first 8 attacks, if I believe it is, they're the cards that are surrounding the card. So they're showing you where is getting attacked for how much damage, and usually they're little. You know, it's little feints, little strikes here. It's almost like you're testing your opponent, because then when you fill everything up, that's when you get to add up major points and differences is taken in damage. And those tend to be big, massive blows. And as this plays out in your imagination, it is so easy to see it work just like that. See a little quick strike fly by, damaging the wing. You know, a little claw strike here, and back and forth until finally one of them builds up the energy, put it like in a video game sense, and boom, hits them with a massive attack. And that to me is the most fun part of the game, is when you get that boom attack. And if they're not down, then you're doing it again. Little hit, little hit, little hit, little hit, and bam! There you go. Yes, this game is fast and easy to learn. The rules are no problem. It's easy to teach. Actually, just looking at the game being played for 5 minutes is more than enough to teach anybody more than they need to know to play the game, at least to start off. You're not going to teach you a darn thing about strategy. Maybe that you're going to have to get a few games into to start learning. That's the other thing I like about this. Although the rules are easy, in order to master this game is not easy at all. There is such a vast amount of combinations that can happen, and that's also dependent and different on which dragon you're using and what they themselves are able to do during the game. Yeah, this game just keeps bringing it. And from an artistic point of view, I love looking at the dragons on these cards. The differences between the dragons is so obvious. They all look fundamentally different, and they all look beautifully unique. But yeah, you're looking for a really fun, fast 1 or 2 player head-to-head style game, combat, fantasy, dragons. Yeah. You got to go check out Fundamental Games, Duel of the Dragons. My number 3 favorite card game by Game and a Curry, Judge Dredd, Block War. This is a fast, intense, two-player, head-to-head battle. Right down to the core. This game doesn't stop moving the moment you start playing it. And in this game, you are going head-to-head with one other player, and you are both playing different gang members, and you all have your own areas in the block buildings that you have control of opening the block doors for, opening them up in order to make attacks on the other players across, literally sitting across from you. But during this whole time, in the street, in between the two of you, the judges are out. And they're out to put a stop to this block war. They are the enemy of both of you. It behooves you to take them out. But it may be better if you can manipulate them. I can't tell you how enjoyable that is. The fast-paced, back-to-back attack, and then throwing the judges right in the middle of this madness. And this is taken from one of the greatest Judge Dredd comic book story arcs of all time. And the art shows of that also, because that is what the art is. It is ripped, torn directly from 2000 AD Judge Dredd comic. You look at this, you are literally in Mega City. Is Dredd in this? Oh yes, and so is Judge Giant. Those are the two specifically named judges that are in this game, and they cause massive havoc. But all the cards in general, the way the judges are, the way the perps are, but the greatest thing to me that I love the most about this, on top of all of this fanfare I'm giving it, is the flip style judge cards. Because the judges are in the middle of the street and the players are on either side, the cards, even their backings are diagonally cut in half, so to speak, with the same mirror artwork on each diamond end of the triangle of the standard card. So this way you don't know what's sort of up and down, because there is no up and down on the back of the cards. So when you place them out, you're blindly placing them after shuffling them. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the other thing. You shuffle them, and during shuffling you twist them. Shuffle, twist, shuffle, twist, shuffle, twist. So none of the cards are necessarily always facing the same direction as the next card or the previous card in the deck. So when you're putting it out, you don't know. Are the judges facing you, or are they facing them, your opponent? And that is a great surprise. And to a degree, there's a slight way of manipulating that between the players, and also the placement of it, whether a card is just going to, boom, pop right out right there, or if everything's going to ride or slide down the street and the new card's going to come out at the end. You're not always guaranteed which way it's going to come out. Altogether, this game is great. I think this is an underrated two-player game that needs more attention, which is why I'm talking about it here. It is genuinely fun, but I also really am looking forward to the expansions that they hinted at. Well, they didn't hint, they specifically mentioned coming expansions, and I am so excited to see that. Judge Anderson, the side core, is my favorite. I'd love to see if she or they are incorporated into an expansion. Love to see more perp cards. So much of it, I can see the potential for more growth. But if you're looking for a fast, and I mean a fast, two-player, head-to-head game that me and the 20-Sided Warriors found works amazingly well in sort of a round tournament system, and this is the game. Go check out Judge Dredd Block War by Game and a Curry. My number 2 favorite card game by Grey Gnome Games, Iron Helm. This is a dungeon delve card game. I love dungeon delves. I grew up cutting my gaming teeth on Dungeons and Dragons. Of course I love dungeon delves. And this is a great version of a dungeon delve. In a sense, this is the last dungeon delve. You're ready to retire as an adventurer. You just want that one last score so you can retire on. But my friends, this game is anything but easy. I totally enjoyed the 2-card draw system. When you're drawing the encounter cards from the dungeon deck, you're drawing 2 of them, and then you're choosing which one do I want to see? Which one do I want face up? Because you're going to have to make a decision whether you're going to take that encounter or you're going to discard it and blindly take the other card without knowing what it is. Now, this game system is based on earlier rules for a game Desolate, which uses the same system. However, here, they've taken it up a notch by each of the cards having a different effect based on the fact that if it was chosen first or second. Sometimes choosing a card as second is beneficial. Doesn't seem to be always, though. But there's enough of a mix in there that is always going to leave a question in your mind, no matter how good this card is that I'm looking at it as a first choice. There's something in particular I need, and I know I can get it as a second choice, but it's really rare. Could it be there? It can sometimes make you overthink if you're not careful, but that is a sign of a good game because you have just gotten so sucked into it. There's another aspect of this game that I haven't heard any reviewer talk about. I haven't seen any reviewer write about. Maybe it's just me. But when I play this game, and I did, and I noticed in hindsight, the same thing happened with Desolate. When I play this game, as opposed to most of the other solo-specific games I have to tell you that this game really does, to me, seem like it provides a perfect atmospheric sense of alone. That you are on this adventure alone. You have no backup. There's no rogue necessarily to check for traps. There's no cleric necessarily to heal you. It all depends on what you chose to play. But whatever you chose, the others aren't there. You have no backup, no team, no pack. And this game, every time I play it, I have a very strong sense of that. I am alone in this. I don't get that from most other solo games. And I really dig that about this one. And you cannot mention Iron Helm without talking about the amazing expansion packs for this game. Card packs to add to, sometimes change up if you have to remove base cards, but how you're making a new adventure. And they're leveled out depending on how much experience you should have, because yes, you can track and keep your character's riches, gold, successes, skills from your previous delve. So the game is taking consideration how powerful you should be because that, and there's level 2, there's level 3, and they do give me this old sense of some Tom Mulvey basic module, D&D style, or along those lines. That is the feeling that I literally get from these game packs. But then again, that's how I started gaming. So maybe I'm drawing onto something that Grey Gnome Games intended to be there. Something to reach out and grab old school gamers like me. Well, if they did that on purpose, it worked. And if they didn't do it on purpose, it still happened. Yeah, this is an almost perfect solo-specific card game. If you love fantasy games, dungeon delves, and you want to take one that is serious, when I say serious, I mean this is not easy to get through. You're looking for a challenge. Please, go check out Iron Helm by Grey Gnome Games. By Greater Than Games, Sentinels of the Multiverse. This has made top lists for me for the last several years, and it still continues to do so. The series is over. It was a couple of years ago they came out with their last expansion. And this game is still one of my favorites. I love the fact that in this game, not only when you play multiplayers, that you have this team sense, right? And it's a little bit deeper than a lot of other games I've played because of the way the characters can set up each other, can help each other, can boost each other. They can have a synergy, even out of their own turn sometimes, by having ongoing effects that are going to only benefit their teammates. And that does make me feel more like I'm part of a comic book team. I remember the Avengers in the 80s, they would just call out a name, like they would say something and everyone in the team would know exactly what they were going to do. And that level of teamwork I feel when I play Sentinels in the Multiverse. This is a hand management deck, not building, you have a set deck, but it's not hand management as you're drawing the cards, giving it a little bit of luck right there. And factors in the game will change up your strategy. Everything from what the villain does, what their minions do at certain times. Sometimes things will happen at the beginning of a turn, sometimes they're at the end of a turn, and these are going to be altering during the course of the game, as well as altering the cards in your own play field during the very course of the game, which to me always makes this feel like this is a game that I kind of to myself categorize as a fluid strategy game, because you have to constantly be prepared to change everything you're doing because of one particular thing maybe the villain got lucky enough to get a draw of that may be completely wiping out an effect that you have on the rest of the heroes that are giving them this great boost to get through a defense, and now all of a sudden that strategy's gone. That's just gone. Now you're playing a different game, and you have to be fast because the way these villains and their minions pile up damage and effects on you, if you're not vigilant constantly and you let something like that slide, it's almost impossible to win. You have to keep your strategy tight at all times, no matter how fluid things get. Now mentioning that, another thing that affects that, and something else that I love in this, is it has a deck specifically for the environment. There are different decks. There's a lot of different decks between all the expansions that'll give you a multitude of environments to encounter your battle in. Some of them are more beneficial than others to you, like if you happen to be fighting in Freedom Tower. Some of them are a lot tougher, like if you're on the block, which is a cosmic interdimensional super prison. They really don't care that you're a superhero or a bad guy, and they're just quarantining everything at that point to keep the peace and keep everyone, keep the prisoners from escaping. So it does get very tough no matter where you are and who you're fighting. The combination of the setup of this game because of villain hero environment deck is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, the synergy that happens between the three, just with the fact that this company decided to make the environment of the game a living participant to it. And why not? This is based on comic books. That happens literally all the time. During the middle of a fight, you suddenly got to go deal with something in the environment because they've crashed a train to delay you, or someone is about to get injured, or you have to make sure you get that payment to the electric company, or Aunt Abby is going to be out in the street or something. There are tons and tons of things that the environment affects superheroes in the movies and the comic books, and this card system captures that like no other superhero game system I've played does. And as I aforementioned, there are expansions. There are a bunch of expansions before they ended this game system to move on to other work in the company. But the expansion systems are all telling this sort of ongoing story. And if you really play the game through the expansions, you get to pick up these clues that you notice between one and the other. And I never did, to be honest with you, but they all led up to the final big last expansion, Oblivion. Not Oblivion, Oblivion, like Aeon, Oblivion. And in this game, it turns into what I would call a campaign. It's not sold as a campaign, not advertised as a campaign, but the amount of things that you have to do to stop this cosmic being that's sort of a cross between the Anti-Monitor from DC and the cosmic entity Oblivion, I guess, from Marvel. In order to stop them, you have to go through several different environments. You have to deal with a multitude of villains and minions and his own personal guard. Before you can even get a chance to destroy the shields that are surrounding him, and then whatever I can't. I'm sorry, I can't remember how many thousands of hit points this guy has. It becomes this long campaign that feels like something from I don't know. It feels something like the original Infinity War comics or something. It does have that campaign and cosmic feel to it. Oh, and it brings out it does. They brought the system and the game together completely with the expansions right down to the end. This game can be soloed. However, it falls into the category that I dislike for soloing games, and the fact that it works best if you use multiple heroes. It's just time consuming. That's the main reason why I don't like doing it, is the time consumption to manage multiple different heroes during the course of the game just by myself. I'd really rather not do that. But there are games I make an exception for, and Sentinels has been one of those games in the past and will be again in the future. That it draws me so much that I'm willing to say, I don't care. But they also have a beautiful app. There's a beautifully translated app from the board game right to your phone, your tablet, your pad, and it plays exactly like. In fact, it even taught me a few rules that I was doing wrong, especially with the stacking of damage and things like that, which I then tweaked for the card game. But this is amazing. If you love superhero games, trust me, even though you don't know these heroes, they're not from a comic book company, Marvel, DC. They're not from Image. They're not from any company, Dark Horse, that you've ever heard of, in any minor little St. Mark's style comic book store you may have found. No. These are all new. But if you are willing to walk into a new comic book universe and you love superheroes and comic book based games, this game is going to give it all the time to you. This game is never going to let you down. This game is constantly going to keep you coming back. Even if you don't get a bunch of expansions or any expansions for it at all, just the simple fact between the different heroes in the base game and the environments with the villains, the mix-up for this is still going to keep you playing for a long time if you're just looking for replayability alone. But this game delivers. You're going to have fun with it. Trust me. Greater Than Games. Sentinels of the Multiverse. My #1 favorite card game.